Hi everyone, my name is Jimmy Smith. I'm a proud member of the Cathedral Prep class of 2011, and I have the pleasure of working here at Prep in our Advancement and Alumni Relations office. Welcome to a huge milestone for us on the Rambler Podcast, as we are sharing episode number 100 with you today. On this podcast, we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. And I'll be your host for today's episode, and we're excited to have Dr. Chris Clark join us as a guest, which is so great because he was also our very first guest on the podcast almost 4 years ago. So we're excited to have him back on for episode number 100. Dr. Clark graduated from Cathedral Prep in 1987, and he currently serves as the chairman of the board of directors for the Villa Maria Cathedral Preparatory Catholic School System, which is comprised of Cathedral Prep and Mother Teresa Academy. Dr. Clark has served as president of AHN Saint Vincent Hospital since June of 2017, and he also provides leadership for Grove City and Westfield Memorial Hospitals. Born at St. Vincent and a lifelong resident of the Erie community, Dr. Clark is a practicing family physician who has served in a number of leadership roles over the years, including Senior Vice President of Medical Affairs, Chief Quality Officer, and Director of Medical Education. In addition to his work in healthcare, Dr. Clark has played an important role in our community, as mentioned for his service in our board of directors. And in addition to that, he serves on the board of directors for Penn State Barron, Sisters of St. Joseph Mission and Ministries Foundation, and the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership, where he is the immediate past chair. And he has also served as past president of the Erie County Medical Society. He earned his undergrad degree from Boston College, his medical degree from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, completed his residency at Geisinger Medical Center, and has also earned a Master's of Health Administration from Penn State, along with a graduate certificate in Gynecology from Gannon University. Dr. Clark and his wife, Dr. Caton Clark, originally from Annapolis, Maryland, are the proud parents of Jacob, Prep Class of 2020, Sarah, Prep Class of 2023, and Adam, he's Prep Class of 2026, graduating here soon. And so we are grateful to have him back on for this milestone episode. Dr. Clark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Jimmy. Really, it's an honor to be a repeat guest.
That's
on
right.
Your podcast.
That's right. We really appreciate you coming on. I remember my initial outreach to you on that first episode was like along the lines of, hey, bear with me. You're going to be the first episode, a little bit of a guinea pig if you don't mind. But you were so gracious and so willing to help support the effort. So it's fun to look back and see how far along we've came now.
Yeah, and I think credit should be given to you for having this approach to connect with the prep community. I think it's been very, very successful. It seems like so long ago that we had that conversation. I guess it was back in the summer of 2022, as referenced. So 100 podcasts since, a lot of great people that are, stellar representatives of Prep and Villa, and all the success of the school and how it impacted them. So again, going back to you, it's a remarkable approach for catching up and for connecting with everybody.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the kind words, and I always identify myself as a prep nerd, so I say that jokingly because I love hearing people's stories about their time at Prep or Villa, what they've gone on to accomplish in their life and their career. It's allowed me to connect with people that I already knew from previously, either my time at the school or other professional things, but also new people that I'm meeting for the first time. So it's been really great to get this, wide range of an audience that we've been able to connect with. And some really amazing people out there doing some great things. That's kind of where the tagline, that standard of excellence that Cathedral Prep represents. People like yourself out there in the community making a difference, making an impact. And we appreciate, all the things you do for us here in Erie.
Oh, it's a privilege to be in whatever role I'm in that we're referencing, but starting with a parent of prep graduates and a current prep senior, but then being on the board and then certainly serving in my healthcare role and serving AHN Saint Vincent as CEO. So definitely a privilege and an honor.
Yeah, well, thank you again. And we've been saying you were the first guest on the podcast. Now fast forward to episode number 100. So much has changed in the world, of course. It feels like just yesterday, but, so much has changed between healthcare, things at Prep, Mother Teresa Academy, certainly with our move coming up this fall. It's kind of a broad question to start with, but if you're reflecting over the last handful of years since we last had you on, what are some of the more notable things that really, you've stuck out to you, whether it's something you've learned, something you've experienced personally? What's something that kind of comes to your mind when you kind of look back over the last handful of years just for yourself?
Sure. Well, back in July of 2022, and we don't necessarily want to remember this, but we were still in the midst of the pandemic. If I recall, the peak in the number of patients that we were taking care of in healthcare in this region was the tail end of 2021, but also early 2022 as well. And then the pandemic officially didn't end until the following year. So we were seeing, although had adjusted to all kinds of patients with COVID that still required hospitalization. So the numbers in the hospital at that time that we did that podcast was still, impressive. The other thing as it relates to the pandemic is, the impact on the labor crunch. And it started in 2021 in certain areas, but didn't necessarily impact Erie until 2022. So that was really the time that we were starting to see a shortage of staff in nursing and in other areas that required us to think outside the box on getting coverage. We definitely had a lot more travelers or agency support at that time, but then we were starting to address ways that we could influence people to consider getting into healthcare jobs, nursing and other positions. And now, fast forward to 4 years later almost, we definitely have reaped the benefits of increasing interest in healthcare. But at Prep back at that time, that's when the new building was finishing, the Salata Center. The first co-ed class was coming together at the same campus. My daughter Sarah was a part of that first co-ed class to graduate, so she was starting her senior year at the time. My youngest Adam was starting his freshman year at the time. And so, just amazing how time has gone so quickly since then, but a lot's changed, for sure.
And you're last of the bunch through Prep. How's it feel?
That's right. Yeah, my youngest Adam is graduating, so and he again would be the first class where all 4 years it's been co-ed and on the same campus. So it's amazing that we won't have anybody at Prep anymore, because I've been there for a long time, been connected to the school for sure.
Yeah. No other students can even remember what just Prep with all boys or Villa is all girls was like. Now officially at the school, to your point, your son was a freshman that year.
That's right.
It is remarkable to look back on. It's hard to think that we're already at that point of, kids nowadays in middle school, grade school, they don't even know of Prep just one gender, Villa one gender.
That's right. That's right. So definitely it has improved for sure.
So in your position as, board chair, as we mentioned in our introduction, and from your perspective, why do you think it's important, just as you're seeing from your vantage point, for alumni of Cathedral Prep and alumni of Villa Maria Academy to, really continue to stay connected to the school, stay supportive of the institution? What are you kind of seeing from the inside, look of things?
Yeah, well, it's not to be taken for granted, being a board member just is one avenue of staying connected. But as we've just talked about, being a parent is even stronger way through all the different activities that are going on at the school, the sporting events. Of course, my kids have been active in athletics, so we are really connected and enmeshed of what's happening there. But then also tied to the board, and being aware of all the changes from that perspective. So, I definitely would like to convey and point out emphatically to this audience, if you've not been connected to Prep or Villa in a long time, please take advantage of getting reconnected. There are very special things going on at the school. And I know we're all proud of the time that we were there and the history of when we were there and all the advantages. But, when the school decided to go the direction that it did, it was for all the right reasons. And it was clearly the right decision as well, because the school's environment now is much better. I really do appreciate the benefits of a co-ed Catholic education. And now the school has enhancements built upon previous traditions and the history of both schools. There's new programs at Prep with theater that does extremely well. Les Mis was last weekend, what an exciting show that Father Mike and team put on. The dance program, the academic pathways. Our hospital is very connected to the MedPath program. Again, trying to promote young people to consider professions in healthcare. Of course, built upon previous successes with strong academics, the relationship with Guiana, athletic programs that are very successful. So it's just a great experience for the young people in our community right now to put them in the best position to be successful in life.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. And I think, the question I hear all the time is, is it the same as when we were there, Jimmy? People talk to me from that early 2000s. And it's not, but it's evolved and it's better. And certainly if you were to ask me when I was a student in 2009, 2010, from yourself, is it the same as when you were there? The answer would have been no. Again, it's just generations change, things happen with the school, but it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. We're evolving and we're meeting the needs of today's current landscape of students that are in the marketplace today at the high school level. And I would say, the overall, sense that I get, families are really enjoying their time at prep. Students are loving their experience, and there's all positive feedback from the faculty and the coaches, of course. So to your point, there's a lot of really great things happening on campus, and the only part of it for the alumni is we just invite you to come back and check it out and see for yourself.
I think everyone would be pleasantly surprised, if they've been disconnected, maybe audience members aren't in the community anymore. Hopefully you still have connections to Erie with family and friends. But I think we strongly we're on the same page about advising to reconnect, to find out what's going on. And again, for those that are growing up in this community, we know what young people are going through with all the challenges that they're up against, and how technology is good and bad in their world. This environment here, it provides them an excellent opportunity to get through, navigate those challenges that they're running into, and be positioned for success in the best way.
And the last little plug I'll add in there is one of my favorite things to do is when somebody reaches out for a tour and they haven't seen the school, in 10, 20, 30 years. Oh, it's so much fun to show them where the pool used to be, where the exterior facade of the building now is on the inside of our new Student Life Center. There's so many great features that look exactly like you left it back in 1975. Right. And then other areas that are brand new. So that's one of my favorite things to do is give people a tour. Whether you went to Villa or Prep, it's a great experience to walk through the halls of the school.
Well, two things I would add to that is what I would call out, and I have before, there's a staircase that's not there anymore that is completely flipped to the other side of the hallway. And that gives you a double take. It's near the auditorium. And then, of course, there's an elevator now.
That's right.
And there wasn't an elevator back in 1987 when I graduated, although elevator passes were for sale.
If you still have it, you can redeem it now.
That's right. That's right. So, but the building has changed for the good, for sure, and it definitely contributes to the positive experience.
That's certainly right, and I think that's a good segue into reflecting back on your time at Prep, and we talked about that during your first episode when you came on. But for those maybe didn't hear that episode, when you think back for yourself at your time at Prep, 1984, 5, 6, 7 when you were there, what are some of the memories or some of the teachers that really stand out to you that made Prep such a special experience?
Well, since you brought up 1983 and 1984, because that's when I started, graduating from Our Lady's Christian, now St. Jude School. I did spend time at St. George School as well, so I have friends from both schools. But Mr. Achille immediately stands out because I had him for freshman algebra. And what a solid communicator and educator for sure, which was a good foundation for my math interest and curriculum throughout the years, because that transitioned into 2 years of Miss Maxwell, Joanne Maxwell or Joanne Mullen, and certainly a legacy, a contributor, an influencer at Prep. So I will never forget her and Mr. Achille and the foundation that I had both in math and science. Mr. Clancy, I always love to mention with chemistry, and Ms. Stashinsky in biology. So this audience wouldn't be surprised to hear my interest and background in science since I went on to college and medical school. But clearly prep and my educators contributed to that, creating a disciplined approach to academics, and with the rigorous schedule, which was challenging at the time, but at the same time it made the transition to college more straightforward and easier. I definitely remember Mr. K's stories in history class. That was also the class that I remember being told that the Challenger exploded back in 1986. Not a fond memory, but is one of those situations in history that you always remember where you were. So that was in Mr. K's class as a junior. Mr. Dave Wenrick, you could always hear on the other side of the wall the way he talked, and you'll never forget Mr. Dave Wenrick's performance at rallies.
I've heard they're legendary.
Even taking off his shirt at times. So, but that reminds me of basketball games at the Audi, and now the Highmark Center.
Yeah.
My class was also the first class to take classes at Gannon, too.
Okay.
So that was class of '87 that we had the opportunity to take college classes to get college credit at Gannon, which is a program that continues today, and all three of my kids have done that.
Yeah. What a great program, too. I mean, talk about a successful, opportunity that you got to partake in as that first class. And even nowadays, there's a lot of kids that go over and do that and go straight to Gannon or another university with already having some of their freshman year, most of it already done.
It's exactly right. And, of course, now that my kids have done it, and, a lot of their friends have taken full advantage of, one less year in college, or, an earlier opportunity to go to grad school. Outstanding opportunity for prep students.
And so many of those names you mentioned I recognize, and some I've heard. I didn't necessarily have as a teacher, but it just makes me think of how special, the institution is because of the people who just poured their heart and soul into the students who had been there for, so many years that they served. Tony Del Rio and others, too, that, have done so many great things for the school, during their time there. And, you mentioned how, those initial classes with, Mr. Achille or Miss Maxwell or Mrs. Mullen, and other teachers help form the disciplines that you were able to carry on throughout your career at Prep and beyond. How overall did Prep really help shape your experience into becoming the person that you've been able to come today? I mean, such a successful career and what you're doing for the community. How did Prep help play a role in that?
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned, I definitely think how I was dedicated to academics and balance with the school activities that I still found time to take advantage of. But when you go off to college, as everyone knows, there's lots of options and activities to consider, and distractions, I guess, is maybe the better word. So, when I had a good foundation that was delivered to me at Cathedral Prep, it just made that move to Boston College ever better, so that I could continue, the performance and commitment to my schooling. So, I guess the other thing that I took advantage of at Prep is just I had an interest back then in leadership opportunities. So, I did find my way to advance in student government and then connect and work with leadership at the school level. So, the leaders of the school at the time, of course, interacting with my student, the classmates, my friends in my class, working together on projects that, the student government did. Back then that we had the Teenage Action Club, TAC, which doesn't exist today, obviously, but there's, activities and groups like it. But we used to plan a lot of activities together. So, that led to my interest in college as well, to do the same kind of thing. So I was active in college in student government work at the undergraduate level. So certainly I want to call out how Prep being how it promoted the importance of a Catholic education and the importance of faith. That was clearly a big part of what I took advantage of at Prep and then maintained when I went to college. I mean, I chose to go to a Catholic college because of my Catholic upbringing and my education at Prep as well. So ultimately, I give all the credit to my parents and I guess the commitment to having me go to Prep, supporting me go to Prep, and then the Prep education to where I am today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it's such a great story to hear, because I think a lot of people are going to listen to this episode because they either knew you from Prep, and they see your name there, they know your position and your family and whatnot from having been a current parent the last few years. And others also are going to be listening because, they aspire to get to a role like you've been able to, achieve in your life. And to hear that Prep played a part in that, is a significant, part of your story is so great and inspiring to hear. And, and that kind of leads to the next question I've had for you lined up and kind of talking about, your career. You've served in so many roles before necessarily just becoming the president of Saint Vincent Hospital. Can you just for a second, just briefly walk us through, your career journey and any lessons that you learned along the way that you'd like to share with the listeners? Because again, I think there's definitely people listening to this episode that, they kind of want to hear about what it takes to reach a level of success like you've been able to accomplish and have the impact you've been able to do. So any lessons you can kind of leave us based on your journey would be, greatly appreciated.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I hope I can help with regards to that. I certainly am humbled by everything that I've accomplished, if you will, because I do feel like, it's been with divine intervention that I've been able to get to this point. I definitely want to restate and emphasize my family's support. So I did mention my parents. My dad's not around anymore, but my mom is a 1954 graduate of Villa.
Wow.
Matter of fact, the first class that graduated from the Villa campus building on West 8th Street, that was her class.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting that my daughter was the first class to graduate from the Salata Center building.
Oh, cool.
But anyways, my brothers, who are Prep grads, 1978, 1982, and then my sister is a McDowell grad. But that's okay, because
we'll still give her a shout
friends,
out on
they're
here.
friends as well. But Mary Beth, Jerry, Greg, major influencers in my success. And again, the sacrifices that my parents had to allow us to go to Prep led to all of us being successful. So, but my track record, I always wanted to be a physician. I went on to medical school after college. I became a family physician. When I started here at St. Vincent in 2001, I was interested in teaching, so I definitely wanted to give back that way. I think Prep contributed to my interest in being an educator as well. Not only, what I've mentioned before, including my interest in leadership, but also my interest in giving back, in helping others. So my background at St. Vincent, I went from education to hospital administration, where I was focused on quality and performance improvement and medical staff leadership. I actually worked for Highmark for a very short period of time, but I learned the payer side of healthcare and then came into this role, as you mentioned in my bio, back in 2017. So I think what it comes down to is divine intervention. There's a great foundation at Cathedral Prep with all the things that we've already mentioned, particularly now the environment of a co-ed education with new facilities and all the different technology that's available and the pathways. But it comes down to hard work. It comes down to never giving up. It comes down to pursuing your dreams. I know it sounds, like maybe the audience has heard that before with other people, but it's really that simple. Whatever it is you decide you want to do, don't give up until you get it. And Prep provides a great foundation and a great environment for the goals to be achieved, no matter what they are.
Yeah. And it does seem that from your story and what you've shared about your time at Prep and beyond, You've inherently developed a lot of disciplines of focus and the hard work you mentioned and things that you've just continued to build on in your career. And I love that statement there. It sounds cliche, but just if you have a dream, just go for it. And what's the harm in that? Saying, we're going to work hard, we're going to focus, we're going to be disciplined, and we're going to do what it takes to try to make this happen, make it a reality. And of course, divine intervention as well plays a part in all this too.
Just have a strong faith.
That's right.
That's what it comes down to. We're all living God's will. And so far, that's what it is for me today, to have my background, but then be in the position that I'm in.
Yeah.
So, and that includes giving back to Cathedral Prep, by the way, as serving as a member of the board. So, that's one of the reasons, why I stay connected for sure.
Yeah, certainly. There's a number of ways to be connected in terms of giving back to the school. It's your time, right? It's a matter of serving on a board or a committee or something to help advance the school's effort. It's, of course, philanthropy, working with our office to find an area that you might want to support that's most of interest of you. And, maybe it's coming back and maybe you have an expertise in one of those pathway programs that you'd like to come talk to the prep kids about your experience, whether as a doctor or a lawyer or some kind of profession to help the kids figure out what they might want to do at the next step. So there's a number of ways to continue to give back and be involved in to pay it forward, so to speak.
Exactly.
And, you mentioned earlier on in this episode talking about, a few years back looking at the challenges of COVID that, we were going through back in 2022, 2023. But since then, a lot has changed in healthcare. From, your position of, here at AHN and Saint Vincent, what are some of the biggest challenges and some of the biggest opportunities that you're kind of experiencing nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, it still is similar to what I mentioned previously. It's finding the right number of staff matched up to meet the demand. So the demand is even higher in some ways. I'll give you an example. St. Vincent serves as a regional medical center, meaning that we service upwards of patients from 3 hours away. So in rural sites of service have less resources than they used to. The pandemic had that impact as well. So we have a higher demand for specialty care and for services for complex conditions. And so, we have to constantly work on finding the right mix of staff with the appropriate training, from physician level all the way to specialty tech areas like for the lab or imaging or in the operating room setting. There's a good example of a position that probably not a lot of people know exists, but it's called a surgical technician position. And they work very closely with our surgeons in the operating room. They're not nurses, but they help with the procedure, they help hold instruments, very, very important role. And there's a shortage of that role right now in healthcare. So the pandemic did exacerbate some of the staffing challenges on top of an increased demand. We're still always working every day, provide high quality care, but also in the right location. So we're trying to determine where's the best location and the timing for someone to get their care or their procedure. So healthcare is extremely exciting, as everyone would assume. And, most industries are constantly changing. But in healthcare, everyone can relate to it because everyone needs healthcare at some point in their lives. And so, we're dealing with a complex environment for sure. I guess what's most exciting going forward is how technology fits in. And that's, everyone knows about, in questions really, what's the impact of artificial intelligence, AI?
Yeah.
Well, the same is true in healthcare. And I guess, on top of what I already said about what our challenges are and what we're trying to accomplish, we know technology has a role with it. We know, and it's already in existence. St. Vincent has 3 robots that we use for general or cancer surgical procedures. We have 2 for two Mako robots for orthopedic joint replacements. We are using AI in this environment right now. And the future of AI certainly is even greater of how it's going to fit in addressing what the challenges are in getting better results in healthcare delivery. Hopefully with a even improved patient experience as well. So, and I guess a great example of AI, in case you're interested, of what I use, started using it last year, but ambient listening. So when I see my patients in the outpatient setting, I have a primary care practice, so I have my iPhone in the room, and with my patient's permission, the iPhone is listening to the encounter. It's not archiving any of the conversation, but it results in all of the information that's appropriate to the visit. It goes right into the medical record. So it takes away the burden that clinicians have in typing or putting information to the electronic health record.
Wow.
So it's a fascinating technology. I'm amazed by it every time because it turns what's said in the room into a cohesive note and what we're supposed to be documenting, both from the patient's perspective and then from our assessment and plan perspective. And none of the social stuff shows up. So if we talk about, the patient's grandson has a soccer game that weekend, or they're going on a trip to Italy coming up, none of that goes into the record. It's just amazing technology, and it's just one example of how AI is going to be used or is being used, and the potential for how technology will help us with care delivery.
Yeah, and certainly people listening, I'm sure, have thinking of the pros and cons of integrating AI. But end of the day, it's the world we live in now, and that's where it's going to be going. And you are someone who's on the front line of that, practice. Any physician who's using it, it's just interesting to hear about the robots, that are doing some of the procedures. But when I hear a story like that about a practical application to help a doctor save time from the note taking, I mean, what better way to utilize a tool with a function like that? And we're just in the initial stages of how it can help doctors and medical professionals really do what they're there to do, is treat patients, right? So at the end of the day, I think it's a positive thing. It's just a matter of navigating through the waters of what all is out there and how it best applies for everybody's specific situation.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and we definitely have to worry about the landmines, if you will, actually getting inaccurate information from the system. We know that internet searches are constantly being done by individuals about healthcare conditions and what ails them and all that. So you have to be careful what you get out of computers or through internet searches and all that. But you can refine with technology, how it's used and apply it in a way that actually creates better results. And in this case, relieves the burden of the clinician of something that every if you're listening and you're in healthcare, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's very demanding to keep up with the medical records, the documentation part of the role, and this relieves a lot of that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing this all, because this definitely would not have been a topic of conversation back in 2022. That is absolutely.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And that was only 4 years ago. Imagine what 4 years from now, when we're doing the 200 podcast, by
That's
the
right.
way, what I'm going to be talking about then.
I'll send you a calendar invite so we
There
got you on there.
There you go. I look forward to it.
Well, and this is just a great example of, the level of responsibility of decision making that, you're making just in, here at the hospital, of course, your board service and, evaluating constant, information depending on the organization that, you're having those discussions around. How do you kind of handle the pressures that come with the leadership and responsibility, and how do you handle, managing those higher level, type of decision making at your position?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to describe, I guess, because sometimes it just seems sort of intuitive. Although I don't want that to come across the wrong way. It definitely can be stressful. I guess in my style of leadership, I certainly love to build consensus when there are decisions to be made. A key leadership approach is to have the right team. And I don't ever say I. It's always we. When it relates to working together and making decisions. But I'm also realistic and not impractical in realizing that you can't please everybody. You know, there's definitely situations where disagreement or discontent can occur. So you have to have thick skin in those situations. But ultimately, you know, if there's tricks of the trade that I take for granted, but when you ask a question like that, you know, I think about, all right, well, what do I do differently? At a high level, you know, it is important to stay organized. And I think everyone could relate to this, but some more than others, depending on how fixated you are on control. But, you know, you have to stay organized, because when you're not organized, that's when the stress level is felt more. So on busy days, you know, and we all have busier days than others, but, you know, I still try to focus on staying on top of what I'm working on, how to prioritize what I'm working on. I make lists. Concretely, I have converted, so compared to 2022, I didn't have an iPad tool that I use all the time to keep track of meetings that I'm attending, you know, lists of things that I should be working on. You know, that helps me prioritize. It definitely helps me, you know, sort of communicate, I guess, with all the stakeholders. I'll give you an example. You know, if I have a meeting where I need to, when I hear something that I need to share with other members of the team, other stakeholders, I'll put a note in a separate folder that reminds me of what it is I need to share. So ultimately, that's one way of relieving the stress of the workload, is just staying organized. I don't have to worry about remembering things. I know that that's going to be something that I'll get to eventually. And then, you know, it also results in effective communication, which, oh, by the way, is a very, very important characteristic of leadership. You know, focus on communicating and then over-communicate. Listen more than talk, although it seems like with a podcast that's a little hard to do.
That's right.
But it is important to listen, you know, certainly to your stakeholders, and to listen to advice that comes to you from people from the team as well.
Yeah, certainly. And I think any one of us can agree. And I think, you know, selfishly, I always enjoy these podcast episodes because I get to sit down with someone like yourself and ask these questions. And I'm writing down little notes and things that I'm learning, you know, along the way as well. But being in certain meetings with people that you look up to, or, you know, asking somebody for, you know, a cup of coffee to invite to learn about these ways to be a better, you know, communicator, asking them how'd they handle a situation. You know, if you see, your VP or your boss in your company make a decision a certain way, you know, be inquisitive, ask them a question to learn about, you know, why they made the decision that way. I think those are things for younger professionals as we're working up, you know, the chain in our career, we can learn from.
Oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely want to call out, because it sounds like I gave you an answer there that was completely focused on the work environment. What was not mentioned, maybe implied, but it's also important to emphasize the time away from work as a way to address the stress too. So, you know, clearly, and it's something that everyone knows, but it's important to call it out. And I'd be negligent if I didn't mention it. Definitely need to make time that's separate from work and work issues, including email, time with your loved ones, time with your family, time dedicated to things you like to do. You know, these days I'm doing more reading, which I'm really, really glad I'm squeezing that in. I've gone through periods in my life, you know, where I did a lot of reading or less reading. So it's good that I'm back on that train. Exercise. I wish I could do more exercise, but clearly it's still a part of the schedule that you have to get done. I'm not as aerobic as I used to be, but I definitely still try to get that kind of activity done, 3-4 times a week. Of course, the timing of this recording is we're beginning the spring. So I'm excited about switching from a treadmill to Presque Isle, or at the very least walking in the neighborhood or biking. So, the importance, it can't be overlooked on how you can be more effective at work and how you address the stress of work by spending time dedicated away from work.
Well, I think it's very wise, and I appreciate you mentioning that, because it's not just all about what you do during the work hours or beyond. You're working on a big project, deadlines, you're working hard. But it's for you to say it's important to also have those moments to just enjoy time with your family, to mentally, have that clarity, to be able to, go outside for a walk. It's as important of a factor to your success as it is the work that you're actually doing in your career profession as well.
Absolutely. And again, it makes you more effective when you can relieve that stress. In my case, summarizing, staying organized, don't worry about the details of all the things that you run into throughout the day, as long as you have a way to remember what you're working on and prioritize what you're working on. And then, make sure you dedicate time with loved ones and away from work for sure.
Sounds like when we record the 200th episode, you're going to be telling me about AI tools to help your management of remembering things and your list and everything.
There could be a better way to do it compared to how I do it right now. You're exactly right.
But I think that's just the state of everything, right? Constant evolving and whatnot. And, one of the things I want to talk to you about too, because, reading some of the levels that you've been involved in with board positions, particularly throughout the Erie community, why has it been important for you to stay involved in the community, with all the different positions you've held?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I love Erie. So you already know how much I love prep.
Yeah.
But, I also love Erie, and I love this community that I grew up in. And like prep has changed a lot, so has Erie. If our audience is not living in Erie right now and you've not been back in this community, oh my goodness, a lot of improvements and a lot in the works for how this area is going to be better in the future. But going back, I do think it's important for a number of reasons. I definitely feel it's a way for me to give back. I mentioned that for the prep board, but I also participate in other boards, as you mentioned, and so I look for ways that I can contribute and influence just as a way to gift back what I've been given. I definitely am a big supporter of the Erie Chamber, Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership. I was the chair, as you mentioned, for the previous term, and we have a lot of great things going on with what the chamber is involved with, in collaboration with so many other organizations like Infinite Erie, like Erie Insurance, the county and city governments, so many that are coming together in real time in working on ways that we can advance our community with reinvestment. There's a program called CRIS that is allowing for state tax dollars to be made available for Erie projects, and that's a substantial gain for our community. So I just, love being a part of, what's going on in the community. It's an opportunity for me to give back, and then, finally, it's just a good way for me to represent healthcare with my role in healthcare and my brand, which is AHN Saint Vincent and Highmark Health. And then also represent the Sisters of St. Joseph, because I still feel connected to the sisters with the history that they've had here at St. Vincent. So I just, take advantage of all those opportunities to be a part of the community as well.
Yeah, there are so many great things happening in Erie. It's amazing. Somebody came to prep for a tour, and we were walking around the halls. It was their first time in Erie in even, a couple decades. And they said to me, oh my goodness, I just could not believe downtown Erie and 12th Street, how different it looks. I mean, there's so many different pockets of growth and things happening. It's really exciting to see those happening right before our eyes for us Erieites.
Yeah, exactly. And clearly a lot of it is surrounded by, or, connected to the waterfront, which is a gem for us. I previously mentioned the importance of being outdoors and Presque Isle, but what an oasis that we have. I didn't take advantage of getting out to Presque Isle as much as I should have when I was younger, But one thing that came out of the pandemic, when we all had to shelter in place and all that, was more time out there. That has been continued since, for sure. So we are very lucky to have all the resources that we have here in Erie.
Yeah. And someplace I'll be basically living this summer is Waldemere.
So, of course you
Of
will.
course, yep. 4 young kids. We get the season passes, and we're there 3, 4, maybe not that many, but maybe actually 3, 4 nights a week, during the summer. And we have a lot of fun with it, of course.
Oh, we had our time there as well. As a matter of fact, 2 of my kids worked at Waldemere a few summers as lifeguards. So yeah, that's an outstanding resource for us, for sure.
Yeah. Yep. So we're looking forward to that, because about another month or so will be the official opening day to be able to go and ride a few rides that they have open. So we'll be there soon enough.
Good.
So kind of piggying off of that, one of the areas that you're serving is chairman of the board for Cathedral Prep and Mother Teresa Academy. And what has that meant for you, I guess personally, to come back to an institution that meant so much to you, through your journey and all the great things that you've been saying about the school? What has it really meant to you to serve in that position of leadership for the school now?
Yeah, no, I definitely mentioned this. I don't mind repeating it, as far as how it's an honor and a privilege, not only to be on the board, but to serve as the chair. So many outstanding individuals that are on the board and have been historically on the board, which, we've been having some conversation about that recently. We have opportunity to reconnect with former board members to sort of catch them up themselves. They had given at that time, whatever time they served, and maybe they're not as connected with what's all the exciting things that we've been talking about that's happening real time at the school. So that'll be a focus of ours going forward. But it's a privilege to be working with as many outstanding individuals, and with the management team, of course. The board members that I may have previously known slightly in the past are now what I would consider friends, because we spend so much time together. But ultimately, even though we have diverse backgrounds, and maybe graduated from different times, or have other different connections to the school, some are parents, some are not parents, we all have the same focus, the same dedicated interest in doing what's best for the school now and in the future. And we remain committed to Catholic education for Erie, and the importance of that. We are committed to maintaining the histories of both Cathedral Prep and Villa Maria Academy, and continuing the traditions. As one of the things I'm very proud of is how the traditions from Villa have been carried over. Mary's Day is coming up soon.
It is.
I participated in my first Mary's Day last year, and was so impressed with how that ceremony worked. So look forward to that this year as well. So it's just definitely a natural fit for me to be a part of the board, and definitely grateful for the experience. But then I'm glad to be able to give back in this way.
It's so great to see people like yourself and all the many other board members who serve on, the board of directors for the school. We work personally, of course, our team with Abby Lechner, because she's the advancement chair, and just the heart and passion behind these individuals who care so much about the school. Yes, their time previously is what connects them to Prep or Villa, to the school today. But their heart and passion for what we're there to do is educate young kids in the city of Erie, or in the Erie community here, to be able to prepare them for the next level in their career, or their journey, I should say, at that point. But I just appreciate you and all the other board members for your levels of dedication of service and commitment to the school. Me being a staff member, but also a future parent to future Ramblers. The decisions that you and your team make now will be impacting generations to come, and my kids included.
Yeah, that I definitely respect that. And there are board members that the audience probably doesn't, that are future parents as well. So they have kids in the grade school system right now. And so, yeah, they have a vested interest. I have, since my son's outgoing, I still have a vested interest. And then there's even, representatives on the board that don't have as much of a direct connection. They're not even alum. And that's great. We definitely have a diverse representation of community leaders that all are coming together to work towards one mission of preserving Catholic education and what Cathedral Prep is doing for our students.
Well, as we wrap up this episode, I just have one last question for you, and it probably could go without even saying, but the last question that I wanted to ask you is, when you hear the words Cathedral Prep, I know we've said a lot about it already, and the audience is probably rolling their eyes now, but I guess when you hear the words Cathedral Prep, what does that mean to you?
Well,
yeah, I know we've talked a lot about it. It's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. And legacy comes to mind. There's so many stories of success from those that came before us at Villa and at Cathedral Prep, and now again, as mentioned before, that since they're combined, it's even better than it was. So I hope we've made that point clear, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm. I think we did.
I really feel strongly about that, and I'm proud to say that because I truly believe it. And again, I'm experiencing it with my own kids. So legacy is a word that can be applied here, but that represents the history, that represents the present, and it certainly applies to the future as well. Because what we're trying to do, as mentioned, is we want to provide this opportunity, those that can relate to any kind of success that came from being at the school. This is the way that, is best in a very difficult environment for young people right now to find a pathway to succeed in the future. So it's the blend of everything we've mentioned. It's the combination of the histories, it's the new curriculum with the pathways and the new programs on top of athletic success, which, that's part of the disciplined approach to growing up. Again, Catholic education and ultimately getting young people an environment to have, the chance of doing well in life.
Yeah.
And so I know there are other schools in this region that are high quality and do very well. But I do feel proudly, for the reasons discussed, that Cathedral Prep is the best chance with the environment that we're in and what the kids are up against to succeed, for the reasons described. So, when I hear the words Cathedral Prep, I think of, legacy, pathway to success, Catholic education, and then champions.
Love it.
We are champions, including for the boys swim team this year. So,
I'm surprised that had to wait till the very end of the episode to come out.
But it's a good thing to end with,
it
right?
It is.
My son Adam was a part of a state championship team. My daughter Sarah was a part of a state championship team, and actually Jacob was too. Although Jacob was in the class of 2020, which was on their way to the swim championships, and the bus had to turn around because the pandemic closed everything down. But he's got a championship ring too. So yeah, it's just a great school for so many reasons. And I'm just happy to promote what's going on there for sure.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate as I've been mentioning, your time, your dedication, your leadership to the board of directors, for the school, all the great things you're doing, and particularly here with us at Cathedral Prep and Mother Teresa Academy. And thank you for taking the time yet again to sit down with me for a podcast episode, number 100. I'll send you the calendar invite, like I said, for number 200.
Yeah, I look forward to it. You got me. So, but great job with this, Jimmy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clark. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.